So today we're going to do a full and complete walkthrough of high-level workflows, and we're also going to give you a little bit of a tutorial with the best tips and tricks that we've learned over the last 3 years. So stay tuned and build along with us. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over to the left-hand side and we're going to go to automations. Automations is where we're going to store the workflows. Workflows, and the way to think about it inside of high-level is anything that is a customer or a personal action, like meaning an action inside the system, you're going to want to have a workflow or an automation for it. Probably one of the best things about this system is the ability to do a lot of automations inside the system internally before you have to go out to a different software. So what we're going to do today is kind of give you like a brief overview and kind of the best tips and tricks of what we do to make things a little bit better, and to also navigate a little bit inside and how to best construct the workflows from start to finish. So when you come over here to automations, you're going to notice that we have some folders, we have some numbers, and then we have the ability to create a folder and create a workflow right here on the right-hand side. We can also see what we worked on recently. We can also have it in a list view, and we have filters now based on status, the ones that are actually on draft and published. And you can actually search workflows now, which is something you couldn't do before. Again, very easy to do, but I just want to make sure you fully understand, because this is the best way to navigate. When we design a workflow, we always put everything inside of a folder. So if we go back and we hit create folder, we're going to do the first ones because we're going to name it number 1, and we're going to do appointment reminders. Now we're going to start with appointment reminders because you've been following along through our series. And again, if you haven't, just click above and you'll be able to go back to any of the, I think we're up to 8 parts at this point. You can go back in and you can see how to create calendars, and we actually show how to create appointment reminders there, but we're going to kind of rehash it a little bit here because we want to show you how our internal processes from creating the workflow and why we do it this way, just to make things a little bit easier. So we're going to start with the number 1 because it's the first thing that we want to do, because we want to utilize the calendar. It's actually one of the best features in our opinion, because you can do so many different things with the calendars. And we're going to start here with the first automation. So the first thing we're going to do is create a folder, and we're going to number it number 1. I'm going to come over here, and then once I'm inside the folder, all I did was click in it. I can come over here and I'm going to create a workflow. Now notice you have a whole bunch of recipes already. These recipes are pre-made workflows that you can leverage and use and just modify them to be your own. For the purpose of doing this today, we're actually going to create one from scratch so you can see the overall flow and the selections. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit start from scratch. When I start from scratch, the first thing I name is what I'm going to do, and I name it first, and I use numbers. Now you can use letters and numbers, so A1 for appointments 1 would be the best way to do it inside of a folder, so you can keep things very organized. And this one is just going to be general appointment reminders, because I want this to trigger on all my appointments, not just one particular calendar. Now, if I have a particular calendar group that I want a specific automation to go in, like a specific sequence, I'll just create that sequence to go along with the reminders. But again, completely up to you. The whole point of this is to show you the different things that we can do. So general appointments is where I start. I name it, and let me just put reminders at the end, so we have that all squared away and looking nice. Now, right off the bat, as you can see, the second I click away from it, it asks me to save. Consistently save, just from experience, and making sure you're not working in the same workflow with another partner, because that's when you start running into issues. Now, a little navigation inside here. If you look over to the left, there is actions, so you can see the different histories of the different versions that you have. Now, it only stores, I think, up to the last 8 or 9, so it doesn't go completely far back. The other thing, which is really important, and it will save you some time later on, is that there is a zoom and a zoom out. Reason that's important is if you build really big automations that have different branches, it gets really hard to navigate, so you're going to always want to shrink it on the left-hand side. The other thing that you're going to notice is these 4-bar actions that we have up here. Actions is going to be the main screen we're in now, where we're going to literally have all the actions and the steps that are going to be part of our automations. Settings, which is really important, and we're going to cover this in detail right now, is that one, this is the general setting for the overall workflow, meaning everything I set up in here, I'm going to automatically carry the value through everything else. So for instance, if I wanted my name to be in all of them, I can set my name here, and I can set my email right over here. Boom, and it's set. I can allow this thing to run multiple, which in this situation, we're going to want this automation to be run as many times as it needs, because it is an appointment. And allow for multiple means that it won't, if for instance, if I made an appointment myself, this would only run once if I don't have this selected. In this particular situation, because it's not like a nurturing sequence that you only really want customers to run to one time. You're going to want this to allow to multiple beyond. The second thing is stop on response. If you're doing a kind of a nurture sequence or you're looking for some kind of response and you want the automation to stop if somebody responds back, you're going to want to turn that on. In certain situations, it's really important, but for this particular situation, we're going to leave this off because we want the reminders to keep going on, because if they cancel an appointment, it's automatically going to cancel this anyway. So from here, I'm going to also put auto mark as red because what this does is when you're creating an automation, if you have any conversations that are going back and forth, it will actually mark this conversation as an open conversation if you don't have this on. So everything you send out will have that on, and it's going to be really annoying as you're trying to really track through conversations. All right, and then the workflow sequence management, I actually leave that untouched because that is something that is, it's depreciated, it even says it right here, so we don't use it going forward anyway. The next is going to be specific date and time. When you click on this, it actually selects the dates and times you want these automations to run. Again, because it's general appointment reminders, I'm going to leave that at any time because I don't want that influencing when somebody makes an appointment. It could be from 8 to 9, and if it's going a day before or an hour before, I want to make sure it goes out. Okay, so that's it. History is going to basically be a really good place for you to check to see where in the steps of the automation it might have failed, or if you have to do any kind of troubleshooting, like somebody didn't get a reminder or something failed along the reminders, you're going to come in here and just be able to navigate and, you know, see what went wrong with the automation. And status is a really good place to see if you're running some kind of wait or a long sequence, what's the next person's place where they're at and what's going to be sent next. So that's status in general. And then you have your draft and published. Whenever you make any changes, you remember you always want to save, but when you want to make it live, you want to make sure you have this to publish. Can't tell you time and time again when we get a lot of calls of like, hey, my automations are not working. It's because they never put them into publish. So it's something you want to keep in mindful of as you go through. Now let's go back to actions. Now that you have a kind of lay of the land on how this works. The way automations work is the way you got to think about this is this. Every customer action. So for instance, when somebody makes an appointment, that would be the customer action. That's always going to be the workflow trigger, the thing that starts the automation to fire. So for instance, somebody fills out a form to download a lead magnet, somebody makes a purchase, somebody buys something from you. These are all starting steps that will create the automations to go. Now, if I click on this trigger, it's named like this in Zapier and in Make, it's always the trigger or the starting step. Think of it as the beginning domino that needs to be pushed. But the actual event and thing that happens will be the actual thing that starts triggering the entire event. So for instance, you have inbound hook, which is now the part of the new premium triggers. That means that you can create a webhook inside there. That's a little bit more advanced. We're going to probably cover that a little bit later. But in the inbound webhook, basically another program will talk to this program. This will be waiting for this webhook to be addressed or attached, and then it sends information in. Affiliate created is part of the new affiliate system. This is actually brand new. And what it does is whenever there's affiliate created, you can actually, send a welcome letter, do all these different kinds of things going forward. So then it automatically becomes the starting step. So you create an affiliate, they start the process, this triggers, you can send them an email and so forth. Customer booked appointment is an appointment status, or the two that are basically the starting triggers for appointments. We're actually going to be using appointment status today when we go through it, but I kind of want to cover these as we go through. Birthday reminder, pretty self-explanatory. Oh, and by the way, customer booked appointment, I've actually stayed away from this. We haven't had a lot of really good results. I really honestly haven't seen a really good use case to use it, so I just work off of appointment status. I recommend you do the same. But going back to this is something we're not going to cover in here just because there really isn't a use case for it. And we are going to cover a good part of these in some of the examples, and we're going to make this a multi-part series because there is a lot involved when it comes to workflows. So again, remember, these are just starting steps. I want to make sure I'm clear because these are all the things that can trigger automations to start inside of here. You have birthday reminders that can trigger off somebody's date. Whenever a details changes inside of a contact, email, birthday, dates, status, anything of that sort, we'll be using some of that. Whenever a contact is created inside the system, if a contact's D&D is disabled or enabled, that means a do not disturb. If you give somebody a tag in another automation, it can actually fire this an automation, a different automation elsewhere. Custom date, if there's a particular date outside of a birthday, like for instance, an anniversary date or a membership date, like they became a member of your group or coaching plan, you can set a custom value, custom field that will trigger off this custom date reminder. Anytime you add a note inside of a field, anytime a note is changed, if you want to alert somebody that, hey, somebody went in and changed a note that you left for a customer, whenever you add a task for yourself or for somebody else, a task reminder that can be going off based on what's going on with that particular task. With customer replies in any channel, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, SMS, email, and so forth and so on, we'll be using a lot of those. Whenever there's a form submitted, a form submitted like a lead magnet form, a sign up for a webinar, a registration of any sort. Order form submitted is when you actually put the order form inside of a funnel. We're going to be using that a lot in a lot of the examples that we cover, because that is going to be the starting trigger for a lot of like purchase automations. Order submitted, which is brand new. It's basically when the actual global product, meaning a product that exists anywhere inside of your funnels, your invoices, it doesn't matter where, will trigger when somebody buys it using this order submitted. This is fairly new, works really well, but you have to make sure it's a global product, and we'll go over that in some of the examples that we have. Survey submitted, so very similar to form submitted, except it's a survey instead. So that means that when somebody fills out a survey, this can trigger the starting action. And then you have Twilio validation error. That means that anytime, I missed trigger link clicked. For any links that are trigger links that, for instance, if in your email you have, hey, click on here to check out my site, and somebody clicks on it and you want another reaction happening, this is trigger link clicked. Then you have the Twilio validation error. This is if you're using Twilio, SMS, or LC phone, they're all the same. If somebody actually sends a text message out and there's some kind of weird error, you can track certain errors here. And if the errors are there, you can just get notified that this is happening. Call status, incoming, busy, no answer. These all can be triggering events inside of here. Email events, open, clicked, bounced, I believe, are some of them. We'll cover a few of these because we're going to also go over some of the email event automations you can do. That's also pretty good. You have your Facebook lead form connection. This is when you connect Facebook ads and HighLevel together. Whenever somebody fills out a Facebook lead form, it automatically comes in here and you can engage with them, send an email, send a notification to yourself, and so forth. These are all really new as far as memberships. Everything you can think of memberships has been officially added. Really, really cool. Somebody starts a category, somebody completes a category, a lesson started, a lesson's complete. You could do a lot of gamifications in here. You can give an offer access, grant an offer, remove it based on times. So a lot of really cool things you can do. Same thing with product access removed, product started. All of these are very similar in the way that they work, but very, very cool to work with. Then you have your opportunity status changed. This is when you're using pipelines. Sometimes you move the status to 1, lost, or I think it's invalid, or whatever the one is. But that particular thing will actually cause the opportunity to do something in here where you can create a full automation. You have your pipeline status changed, where you're basically going to go in, and if somebody changes from one stage to another, this will automatically, like you're moving the actual pipeline, like from 1 to lost, or from book call to 1, you can actually start an automation, create a whole onboarding sequence, and so forth. Stale automation opportunities is when something stays too long in one particular automation, and you could set it where it moves to another one, like stale opportunities or lost or whatever it is. You could use this in there. Invoice is fairly new. You can use this for triggering whenever you do any kind of invoice situations. There's a whole bunch of Shopify, abandoned cart when somebody places an order and when somebody fulfills an order. And now we have video tracking, which somebody can go in, and if they're watching a video and they registered, you can actually track how much percentage they watched, or if they even watched the video, which is pretty cool. We've been using that one quite a bit. We've been experimenting with that. So there's definitely going to be some automations we're going to create there. And then you have TikTok. If again, you're using TikTok ads, you can connect your TikTok ad form to here, and it automatically creates a really nice connection that you can do when somebody fills out a TikTok form. They can automatically TikTok form. They can automatically come in here, and you can go in and just send an email, add them to your contacts area, tag them, do whatever you need to do with them. So that's basically all the starting triggers, meaning the starting actions that need to happen. But as mentioned, this is going to be for general appointment reminders. So we're going to do appointment status. And event type is normal, any, or reoccurring. Now, I just been using normal. Reoccurring is if you're doing a reoccurring invite. or recurring meeting, you're gonna wanna use recurring, but for now, we're just gonna keep it normal, make it super simple. You can get pretty wild in all the different things that happen here. And for instance, just on calendars alone, look how many choices you have. Appointment status is, has a tag, in calendar group, modified by, only for group calendars. These are the different automations that you have. Now, I could tell you, if you wanted to send out a very specific automation for people that are in a specific calendar group, maybe it's the onboarding calendar group, or maybe it's a sales calendar group, you can make it where it's sending these appointment reminders for that specific calendar group that has automations that make a little bit more sense, right? So we're gonna come over here, and for this particular situation, we just wanna do when the appointment status is confirmed, and we're gonna make this very general for all appointments coming in. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit save trigger. Once I do that, I'm gonna hit the plus sign, and the first thing I'm gonna do is, because it's general appointment reminders, I wanna be internally notified that I have an appointment. So I'm gonna come over here, the internal notification. And by the way, actually, let's go back one step. Before I was doing starting triggers, now I'm working when it comes to actions, like the steps and the things that I can do based off of the actual trigger of firing, right? The starting domino starts. Now, these are all the different features that I can go ahead and add. Now, just a quick little overview. You have these premium features, which is when we want to communicate outside of this software into other software like Google Sheets, Slack, custom webhooks, meaning any software that accepts webhooks, and even a date formatter that you want to format the date for. External communications, SMS, email, call, voicemail. Call, by the way, will ring your phone when you send the person, but you have to make sure that they have their number. And what it does is it will actually dial your phone, and it'll say, hey, you have a call from, and press 1 to connect. And you press 1 and it automatically dials the customer's number for you. Pretty cool. Voicemail, pre-recorded voicemail that you can drop right in here. Works only 8% of the time, even a little bit less, and only with some carriers. So just understand it's a really cool feature, but it only works with some. You have your Messenger, Instagram, manual SMS, which just means it's kind of just prompts you to write an SMS to that particular customer. You have a manual call, which puts them on a manual call list. And then you have GMB messaging if you're so entitled to use that, right? Now, that's all the external communications. This is all the affiliate manager stuff. You can add one to the affiliate manager. So if somebody fills out a form, you can add them to the affiliate manager, update the affiliate to active, add them to a particular campaign, or remove them altogether from all the affiliates. The CRM, adding a tag, removing a tag, updating an opportunity, adding a note, assigning to a user, removing assigned user, send an event start date, add to workflow. Look at all these. Remove from all workflows, remove an opportunity, send an internal notification, set D&D, edit conversation, send a review request, Stripe one-time charge if you want to just charge them one-time Stripe fee for something that happens in an email or something that goes on there. Update appointment status if you need to update their appointment status because something changed. Add a task to somebody else. AI booking bot, a little bit more advanced. We're not going to get into that. This is when you're using Eliza, which is something that GoHighLevel provides. We're going to leave out of that because we're not going to get into that too much. We have add to Google Analytics, where you could actually push a conversion or some kind of action to Google Analytics. Got to make sure it's connected. Same thing with AdWords. Got to make sure these are connected. Update contact field, so you can update a particular contact field once an action is done here. All the Facebook stuff, you can add them to a custom audience, remove them from a custom audience. Conversions API, one of our best friends, we use it all the time, where once you have Conversions API set up, you can actually create conversions from here to send out. So for instance, if I was covering and I had Conversions API on this account, what I could do is, if somebody booked an appointment, if it was a conversion action, I can actually send that conversion directly through the back end of the system versus having to realize the pixel up front, which is pretty freaking cool. Right? And then you have your membership actions, giving them access to a membership area, removing the access from a membership area, and so forth. Conditional and workflows, these are all things that are going to be a little bit more advanced, meaning it's an if-else. So you can create branches. So for instance, if I filled out a form and in that form I said I was a dog lover, I can now segregate that person to get a specific kind of email versus another. We'll go over these in detail as we kind of build some of these out. A wait is simply what it is. You either wait for an event to start, we're going to be using these today because we're going to want a 24-hour reminder, a 6-hour reminder, and so forth and so on. We have the webhook, which is a way to communicate with tools outside, like software outside of that. Go-to is more of an advanced action, like if somebody actually hits a particular function and we want them to just like go to another part of the workflow, we could actually connect a little dot that will send it to that go-to area. And then we have math operation, which is if you want to do maths to help calculate scores, gamification, add specific dates, add values to something, you can go ahead and do that. And brand new is now goal event, where if there is a particular goal, like they actually booked an appointment or did something that you wanted them to do, you can actually now use goal event to get them out of the automation and move them somewhere else. So these are all kind of brand new features into that. So we talked about starting triggers. Remember, the ones that start, there's a set of things that you can do there. And now we talked about the actions, all the different things that we can do. So in the first in our first example, right, somebody books an appointment. I want to send first an internal notification knowing that I have an appointment with somebody. So you want to use the search function, internal, send internal notification, come over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send an email to myself. All right. And it's going to be an assigned user, because if they book an appointment in my account, they're going to automatically be assigned. If you watch the calendar videos, and if again, you don't know where that is, click on the link above, go and watch that calendar one, because there's a way to do it where if somebody books on your calendar, you become assigned to them. And if you become assigned to them, the automatic assigning of customers is already here. So I come over here under the subject. You have a new appointment with, and these little tags right here will help push the values in, right? So this is the contact's full name, and I'm going to use custom values as I build out my email. So for instance, is like you, again, I just usually copy here, Control C. You have an appointment with contact name, like Nuno Tavares, starting on, and then I bring over custom values, appointment, start date and time. All right. And then here is the contact information, right? So contact name. I like to bring in custom values, right? So contact full name, contact email, come over here, custom values, contact email. Oh, we'll put it up there, no problem. So all we're going to do is cut that directly out of there, shove it in here, contact phone, just in case you want to contact them and so forth. Appointment, contact phone, and then appointment meeting location, meaning if you had a particular location inside the appointment area, you could just carry it over here. Appointment location, come over here, custom values, appointment meeting location. Pretty cool, right? So you did your first one, now you created this whole automation. And remember, I left the from name and the from email, because if you remember in settings, I've already set that here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save, go back to actions, and now I have my internal notification. Well, wait, I want to make sure my customer gets a confirmation email. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to do a send mail, send email. All right, come over here. Again, the from name and the from email I'm not doing because I've already did that in settings. But in here, what I'm going to do, and by the way, if you're using the assigned value, right, because you're using people with multiple calendars, as long as the person's assigned, as long as the person is assigned on the calendar, you can come over here and you can use user, full name, user, email. Saves the trouble of having to write it all inside of here. All right, so now you have your internal notification. All this is rocking and rolling. Now let's send an email to the customer. Again, I'm going to leave the from name and the from email because I took care of it in settings. Your appointment is booked. And I'll use first name always, or at least first name. Okay. Boom. And because I'm lazy like that sometimes, I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to show you another little trick. If you guys don't want to create this and just for practice, GoHighLevel provides some recipes. That's what they call it. So if I come over here and I create a workflow and I want to create an appointment reminder confirmation, there's already a recipe here. And I'm just going to cheat on the wording. And notice they're doing everything that we're doing. We're just adding a few more steps, right? So here's the confirmation email. Like I said, I want to be a little lazy and I just want to grab all this, but we're going to change some of it, right? I'm going to come over here and notice all I did was hit the recipe. It gave me all of this. Now I'm going to go in and modify. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste, but notice that it's got this weird Zoom link and everything else. Well, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is appointment meeting location, because if you're using a meeting location in that, you could just type that in. If you're like, well, I don't know how to do that, then you can just copy and paste and put your regular Zoom ID in here. All right, so I have your appointment's been confirmed, appointment start time to speak with appointment user first name. Again, if you assign the user in the calendar, all this values will come through. If you're using round robin calendars, this appointment meeting location will also come through. And then it actually gives you the add to Google Calendar function and the add this. So it already has it a function in there, and then you have your cancel and reset. And then thanks, and then what I like to do is also do a user signature. So user signature. And your first one is done. Now what's cool is you can grab this, Control C, and I'll tell you what I'm gonna do next. Well, not only do I wanna send an email, but I activated my text messaging on this account. So I also wanna send text messaging. So since I copied that initial value, your appointment's been confirmed, blah, blah, blah. And all I'm doing, and I can just put in custom value here, user first name, save. Now I got an SMS. Now that's great, the confirmation's out, but now I wanna wait 24 hours before the appointment to send the next reminder. So I'm gonna type in wait. Remember, use the search function, so much easier, especially as you get used to it. I'm gonna hit the wait, and it's not a time delay, it's going to be an event appointment time. Because what I wanted to do is when you're using, at least for the calendar ones, it's working off the event calendar. Now, the back end of the system already knows that you have an appointment and it's waiting for an appointment start date and time. So from here, you're gonna go in, and for instance, on this particular one, I'm gonna do before, and we're gonna say 24 hours, right? So one day before. And I always like to label it. So come over here, the action name, one day before, or 24 hours, whatever you wanna do. Hit save, and notice it has move to the next step, move to specific step, skip all outbound communications till next event start date action. We always put this because it even tells you this is what's recommended for email, SMS, and call volume. I've never really honestly did any of this otherwise than that. It just creates a lot of problems, so I just leave it as that. And remember, most important thing when you're building this out for appointments or registration events or things that have an actual date, you're 9 times out of 10 gonna be using an event appointment time. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. I have the SMS for the customer, I have the email for the customer, and I have my internal. Notice that mine is green. Internal notifications are always gonna be green, so you can make the distinction. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit save, and save again, just to be safe. And again, I like to cheat, so I have the 24-hour reminder email here, Control C. And you can write it whatever you wanna write. We're just showing you a different way to do it. Now, I can even cheat and copy this email and move it down here, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So if I come over here and I hit copy action, I can actually copy the automation that's in here. Now, because this is different, but I already have the words I want to use for it, I just got to come over here and change this to appointment. Where is it? Meeting location. There we go. And I'm going to eliminate that. I'm going to eliminate that. And that's just so there's extra spaces. And the subject line is going to say probably your meeting's in 24 hours. Save action. And I don't send a text message because this can come out randomly at any given date and time. So I'm not going to send a text message during that. I like to do it right away. And I like to do it like 15 minutes before. Because if the person like did it at weird odd hours, it's going to fire weird odd hours. And I don't want them to do that, right? So now it's waiting one day before. I want to now do like 15 minutes before. So hit the wait again, hit enter. Remember, change this because this is an appointment-based trigger, meaning remember the starting action's appointment-based. So I want to use the event appointment time. And this time I want to do it 15 minutes before. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to again go here, copy the email action, put it right underneath. And again, let's just do 15 minutes. I went back to the wait and I'm naming it. Again, naming is super important. You guys will realize that. 15 minutes before. It just comes really in handy as you keep modifying and doing different things in here, right? So in the email, again, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to take the formula that they did. Well, they did 1 hour, so we can probably steal that a little bit. Control C. Come over here. Your appointment is in 15 minutes. And again, you could do an hour, you can do 2 days. It doesn't really matter. Midnights. That's awesome. All right, and you would just change this 15 minutes. Everything else looks great, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this bottom part right here, not the add to calendar, but this here. Control C, save action, because what I do want is to send a text message 15 minutes before, because if you booked, you obviously know that that's coming, and you can personalize it, do whatever you want. Pretty cool, right? And guess what? You're pretty much done. Now, you can be extra fancy. Make believe you had a pipeline and you want to add it to the pipeline. I can come over here as one of my starting steps and just put it in my pipeline that an appointment's been booked. But remember, for pipeline, I want to do pipeline. Oop, it's opportunity actually. Create and update an opportunity. I'm going to select my pipeline. I don't have any pipelines here. So we'll go quickly create one because it is not hard to do, right? So I'm going to come out of my automation. Notice I have the recipe that I created plus the one that I called A1. And I'm going to go over to opportunities. And pipelines, just think of it as a visual representation of what's happening with the customer. So first one is, lead magnet or form submitted. Okay, the next stage is appointment booked. It's like the different stages from customers. And then the last stage would be, let's say, customer bought. Okay, and then we have one more of like customer lost. All right, we can make it really easy. Now, there's different things we're going to get into it, but we're not going to get into pipelines too heavily today, but just to give you an idea, and this is just going to be our test pipeline, okay? Because I want you to see what you can do inside these automations. Now that I created the pipeline, here it is. It'll look something like this. A card will be added here, and it'll go through the different variations, right? Now, I'm going to go back to my automations here. I'm going to go back to my A1, and then I'm going to come over here in the first initial step right after the internal notification. I'm going to update that opportunity, right? So here is create and update opportunity. That's where the pipelines list. Here is the test pipeline. Here is the appointment booked one. I want to use my name in order to see it. And I actually want a phone number just in case I have to call the customer directly from the pipeline, just so then it can kind of go through. Now notice you have status here of won, lost, or abandoned. So you can definitely play with that, and you can even do the opportunity source where you can label in a source if you know this is always going to come from a particular link. But I usually tend to leave that alone. Lead value, if you want to track what this possibly lead could be. So if you're selling a particular program and it's worth $5,000, well, your potential lead value is $5,000. So it's just something to think about as you're filling it out. And maybe I want to give them a tag of appointment booked. So come over here, and it will be something like appointment booked. You add the tag, and now they get a tag. And if you want to come in here, this will just be appointment. I want to name my actions, appointment, okay? And come over here. This is the tag. This is just be appointment booked. Again, if you want to do this, this is not mandatory. It just helps you kind of like understand what emails, even emails, if you want to do email confirmation, SMS confirmation. The more organized you are, it's just going to benefit you later on, right? So you have it all here, and you can go bananas. Like you can have email 1, email 2, email 3, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day. It doesn't matter. Now, again, you can keep adding to this. What if you wanted to put them into a different automation after this is done? What if you wanted to send a reminder after your particular appointment that you needed to make sure and you update the pipeline? You could do a bunch of things, but the cool thing that you need to understand is, remember, the starting step, the starting thing that created all this from the get-go was that somebody made an appointment on one of your calendars. And we made it very generic that any calendar, because all calendars are auto-confirming right off the bat, makes an appointment, this thing will fire. And that's the way we're generating it here. So it's just something to really think about as you're kind of going through the entire thing. Now, if I have like a cancellation workflow or a no-show workflow, I would come in here as one of my starting steps and do remove from workflow. And if I had another workflow, let's say it was, I don't know, it would be something along the lines of like cancel or no-show reminders. I would then remove them from that workflow, not the current workflow, because if I remove from the current workflow, this will stop working and everybody gets out. But it would be from another workflow that's happening somewhere else. So it's just something, again, that you can play with and really have a lot of fun with. So that's what makes this so cool. And that's what we did as far as appointment reminders. Pretty simplistic, but it's a great way to start in really understanding the system. All right. So now let's do another example. So in our previous videos, we created a squeeze page, and inside the squeeze page, it's like a lead magnet funnel, just a really fancy word for lead magnet. All right. If I come in here, and it's probably a guide. So you see somebody fills out this guide, which is great. I'm gonna come over here, and I know this is a squeeze page form. So when somebody fills out a form, what I wanna do is in turn, send them the actual lead magnet and then start sending a whole bunch of sequence of emails. And that's what we're gonna work on next. So now that I have the name of the form as a squeeze page form, okay, and the way I know it is I clicked on the form and I see the name of it, now I'm gonna create an automation for it. All right, remember, every action you want to happen inside the system needs an actual automation. So I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna go to automations, and I'm gonna go to my, well, we already have lead magnets and we have already a squeeze page workflow. Let's see exactly what happened. The form was submitted, the squeeze, well, actually, let's build it again from scratch just to kind of make it easier, right? We wanna make sure we number them. So we're gonna create the workflow, start from scratch. And again, if it's a lead magnet, you can use L1, okay? Dot, and this is squeeze, let's be nice to spell. It's squeeze page form submission. All right, cool. And we're gonna come in here, and the first thing we're gonna do is, again, we're gonna go to the form submitted. We're gonna look for that particular form. Now, if I left this without a filter, it would fire on all forms, which is not something you want, right? So I'm gonna come over here, form is, come over here and look for squeeze page form. Awesome. Now here, I could do the same thing, right? I could come in here and I could start with an opportunity, create an opportunity here. We know that the test pipeline, a form was submitted. You see, I can come in here and contact full name, and actually look, it already had it saved from before. Allow this stage to move in between. It's not won or lost. There's no lead value as of yet. So now I created an opportunity, and I can even put form submitted. Might be a little long, might not allow it, but let's see. Form submitted, beautiful. Now I want to give them a contact tag, right? Add a contact tag. Come over here, application submitted. You could do lead magnet number 1, whatever it is, test form complete. For this particular, we're just going to use, this would probably be a lead magnet or a squeeze page, but we're going to do lead magnet number 1. We add a tag, so this is the lead magnet tag. Okay. Boom. And then we send the email that is actually going to send the email out to the individual. Now, remember, we did forget to do something though after we named it. So let's go ahead and save. We're going to go to settings. We're going to go back over here and remember the from name. We're going to put my name, my address, and then we're going to allow a stop on, not a stop on response. We're going to allow mark our auto conversation as read. So then again, it doesn't influence and it doesn't look like it's going out. It just, trust me, it's something you really want to do early on. And I have the name coming in. So now that I have that done, again, I can type in my search. I want to send an email out. And the email, again, we don't have to do the from name and the from email because we have that covered in the settings. And then here is your lead magnet. Again, whatever your heart desire is about sending whatever email out, again, I would come over here, custom first name, comma, paste it, come over here, and then do like a little user signature. And then in between, I can write whatever I want, put a picture, text message, whatever, not text message, attachment, whatever it is. From here, I can put them into another workflow if I wanted to. So if I hit add, you see where it says add to a workflow. So for instance, if there was another workflow, like a nurturing sequence that I want them to get right after this, I can go ahead and do that. All I have to do is create that other workflow with the sequence of emails, like email number 1, 2, 3, like a little soap opera sequence, and I can send it out to them. So that's how you can kind of control that as you push it through, and you can keep getting more and more involved. Maybe you want to send a text message when somebody downloads a form. Maybe you want a different action. But again, in this situation, starting trigger was somebody submitted a form. The first action is we created an opportunity. The second action is we gave them a tag. The third action is going to be an email. And the fourth action would probably be sending them to a nurturing sequence, right? And for instance, I'm just going to believe this new workflow, whatever number, is the nurturing sequence and nurture sequence. Yep. Let's make sure we spell that correctly. And some capitals just to make it really nice. And then we hit save action. And now I created the automation that it automatically goes in there. Remember, everything, your purchases, your lead magnets, your form submissions, your appointments, your survey submissions, everything will have an action in here and you're gonna wanna respond back. So We're gonna stop it here because this is pretty already, pretty advanced and there's a lot that we covered. We're gonna be building a lot more automations just to kind of give you guys an idea of like all the different automations you could create. But this gives you a brief introduction to how to do it. I would recommend actually playing with this and having a little bit of fun because that's the best part of the automations. Is it kind of like anything's like allowed, so you can go in there and create whatever you desire. So hopefully this was informative and we'll see you in the next one.